The intake officer at the Galactic Defense Academy, a Valorian named Cadet Registrar Kalen, silver-ridged and precise, who had never in his 342 years of administrative service misclassified a single applicant, looked at the file and wrote civilian in the designation field. He did not look up. "Observer pass," he said. "Blue lanyard. Cafeteria access, East Wing only. No range clearance. No simulator access. No live tactical scenarios." He slid the badge across the plasteel desk. "You understand the restrictions, miss." "Naira," she said. She picked up the badge. She did not correct him. This was her first mistake, Kalen would later tell his supervisor. Not catching it earlier. Not reading the file more carefully. Not noticing that the single-page intake form for Naira contained, in the employer field, for words, United States Marine Corps, and in the role field, 2 more. Contractor. Instructor. He had assumed contractor meant clerical. He had assumed instructor meant something soft. He had assumed, in the particular way that 300-year-old bureaucrats assume things about 5'4" human women in civilian clothes, that the blue lanyard was appropriate. He had assumed wrong. The first sign was the posture. Naira walked the Academy's central corridor the way a person walks a space they have already won. Not aggressive. Not performative. Just settled, like she had taken the measure of the room before entering it and found the room adequate. The cadets clocking her at the morning formation shift saw a human, small, dark-eyed, carrying a coffee from the East Wing cafeteria, badge blue, clearly non-combatant. She watched their drills from the observation deck. She did not take notes. She did not need to. It unraveled during the Kessler Protocol run. The Kessler Protocol was the Academy's highest-tier gauntlet. 3 clicks of urban terrain, degraded comms, simulated atmospheric interference, live fire adjacent. 12 cadet soldiers. 1 senior warden running evaluation. Kalen watched from the observer booth, because this was his job, and because the Academy liked its administrators to understand what they were administering. Cadet Soldier Dren hit the 3rd choke point and stopped moving. Fear was not the word. Freezing was not the word. The word was locked, the specific cognitive seizure that happened when a soldier's training ran out and nothing below it caught them. Dren stood in the simulated rubble with live fire proximity scoring ticking damage to his suit, and he was not moving, and the scenario was eating him alive. The senior warden reached for his comm. Naira was already moving. She didn't run. She moved efficiently, which in a crisis looks like running but doesn't sound like it. She crossed the observation breach, which was a restricted zone, technically, but the blue lanyard had floor access and no one had been specific enough about vertical access. Dropped into the scenario terrain, and was beside Dren before anyone had processed that she was no longer in the booth. What she said to him was quiet. No one in the booth heard it. What they saw was Dren's spine straighten. What they saw was Dren move. The cadet completed the remaining 2/3 of the Kessler Protocol with a score in the 91st percentile. Kalen pulled her file. The full one this time. Not the intake summary. The actual file. The one that required 3 security clearances and a subauthorization from an allied human government, in which he only got access to because the Academy's director of operations had called him personally and said, in a tone Kalen had never heard from her in 40 years, "Pull the full file on the human woman and come to my office immediately." He read it standing up. He did not sit down because he was not sure his legs would work correctly if he tried. The thing about Naira's file was the footnotes. The main body was impressive enough. 22 years, various theaters, qualification chains that required a separate document to decode. But the footnotes. The footnotes were a specific kind of document that only existed in certain classifications, produced by certain oversight bodies, when a person had done something so repeatedly and so quantifiably that the institution needed to account for it officially. Subject has produced, through direct instruction, 47 combat instructors currently active in Marine training pipelines. Subject's training methodology has been adopted, in whole or in part, by 3 allied special operations programs. Estimated secondary reach, 12,000 plus active duty personnel, carrying instruction lineage to subject. Kalen set the file down. He picked it up again. He checked the field that said civilian. The field still said civilian. Because she was. Technically, she had separated from service years ago. She did not hold a commission. She trained the people who became the most dangerous warfighters in human space. and she did it as a private citizen with a contractor badge. And somehow the United States Marine Corps had let her walk into a Galactic Defense Academy on a blue lanyard. The director of operations, a Neth named VYSS who had personally overseen the training of 11 Academy cohorts and was not easily impressed, sat across from him and looked at him with all four of her eyes. "She froze one of our best cadets solid," VYSS said. Kaylin blinked. I'm sorry she froze." Metaphorically, VYSS folded two of her hands. "She walked that scenario in 6 minutes, identified 17 systemic deficiencies in our Phase 2 curriculum, and left a handwritten note on my secondary comm before lunch." She slid the note across the desk. It was 3 lines. "Your choke point spacing assumes cadets have already internalized failure recovery. They haven't. Teach the freeze before you teach the fight." Kaylin read it twice. "She left this on your comm," he said. "She doesn't have comm access." The blue lanyard doesn't include comm access, no. VYSS's expression was difficult to categorize. Not anger. Something older. "She found the physical deposit slot on my secondary terminal, which is behind 2 staff-only doors." Kaylin thought about the observer deck, about the scenario terrain, about the word efficiently. He thought about what 22 years of doing this did to a person's spatial reasoning. "She's very good at doors," he said. "She is very good," VYSS said carefully, "at everything we apparently thought required a military designation to be taken seriously." They offered her a full clearance that afternoon. Naira took the lanyard, gold this time, unrestricted access, and turned it over in her hands once. There was something in her face when she did it. Not satisfaction. Something quieter than satisfaction. The particular look of a person who had expected to be underestimated, had budgeted time for it, and was mildly pleased that the budget hadn't been entirely consumed. "The freeze protocol," she said. "Can I see your Phase 2 curriculum design?" "We'll send it to your room," Kaylin said. "I'll read it tonight." He nodded. He started to turn. "Kaylin." He stopped. "The cadet." Naira held her coffee. Still on the first cup, somehow. "Dren. What's his psych history?" Kaylin hesitated. "That's classified, I know. I'm asking because he froze the same way my best students freeze before they become my best students." She looked at him. "Keep an eye on him. He's going to be excellent." She walked back toward the east wing, still on the blue lanyard path. Habit, maybe. Or preference. Or just because she didn't need the gold one to get where she was going. Dren completed the academy in the top 4% of his cohort. He went on to become an instructor. Kaylin updated the file. The designation field still said civilian. He left it.